What if you could understand the last 100 years, not through textbooks and dates, but through the eyes of just one ordinary family? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to follow the story of a family we'll call the Johnsons and see how everyday life has been totally flipped upside down, from how we work to what's on our dinner table.
I mean, really think about it. We see the black and white photos, sure, but what was life actually like for them? What were they worried about when they woke up in the morning? By stepping into the Johnsons' world, we get a much clearer picture of our own history, and we start to see how their lives set the stage for ours today.
Okay, so we're going to break this journey down into three big chunks. First up, we've got the era of survival, which was, well, exactly what it sounds like. Then we'll jump to the classic suburban dream of the 1950s. And finally, we'll look at how things shifted into the new normal from the 70s all the way through the 90s. This is basically our roadmap for the whole story.
All right, let's dive right in at the beginning. For the early Johnsons, around the turn of the century, life wasn't about getting ahead or chasing a dream. Nope, it was about one thing and one thing only: survival. And that meant a constant battle, first with the land and then with the city. Just try to picture this world for a second. It's totally self-sufficient. The father's work in the fields wasn't for a paycheck, it was literally to put food on the table. The mother's work was a nonstop job of cooking everything from scratch, churning butter, you name it. And for the kids, school was a luxury. Chores were a necessity. Their entire world was just this closed loop, all focused on one single goal: making it to tomorrow.
But, that kind of self-sufficient life, it couldn't last. By the 1920s, some of the Johnsons made the big move to the city for factory jobs. And what a shock that must have been. They went from eating what they grew to relying on a wage to buy canned food. They were trading one kind of hardship for another, really, the backbreaking labor of the farm for the brutal insecurity of the factory line.
And boy, did that insecurity come to a head during the Great Depression. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? The factory job vanished. Food had to be rationed. When the entire system outside their front door just collapsed, the only thing they had left to count on was each other. The family had to be the ultimate safety net because there was nothing else. So after decades of just scraping by, the 1950s must have felt like landing on a different planet. A whole new promise started to take shape, a promise of comfort, of stability, of knowing what to expect. This was the birth of the suburban dream. For the first time, there was this clear formula, a roadmap to the good life that felt achievable for regular families like the Johnsons. Get a steady job, and a single income could actually buy you a house. These newfangled appliances like washing machines weren't just gadgets, they were symbols of progress. And with all that came this revolutionary new concept for the average person: leisure time, the weekend. But here is the twist in this new dream. After all the chaos of the Depression and the war, that stability felt amazing. It felt safe. And because of that, there was this huge social pressure to conform. The roles became super rigid. Dad's the breadwinner, mom's the homemaker. Your car, your lawn, how you spent your Sunday, it was all part of this new script everyone was following. The struggle for survival was basically swapped out for the pressure to fit in. Of course, that perfect, rigid picture couldn't last forever. As we roll into the 70s and 80s, the dream starts to get complicated. Life got a lot faster, more complex, and definitely more expensive. This wasn't the 1950s anymore. Welcome to the new normal. I mean, just look at the difference here. That single income that could buy a house and support a family in the 50s, by the 80s, that was getting tough. Suddenly, two incomes weren't a luxury, they were a necessity. And that totally upended those neat family roles. The whole game shifted from simply enjoying your leisure time to this stressful, constant juggling act of balancing two jobs, the kids, and the home.
So what was pushing all this change? Well, it was kind of a feedback loop. Rising costs were the biggest driver, for sure. That forced the move to two incomes. But at the same time, new technology like a second car or a color TV became standard, adding more expenses. And on top of that, a college education started to feel like the only path to a secure future. Each one of these things just fed into the others, making life speed up. And then came the final jet fuel for the century. By the 90s, the digital age wasn't some far-off idea. It was sitting right there in the living room. Home computers, video games, and the absolute explosion of fast food. These things totally changed the rhythm of family life, making everything faster and more convenient, for better or for worse. Okay, so we followed the Johnsons from a dusty farm all the way to the digital age. Let's just step back for a second. After this incredible journey, what does their story really tell us about the last 100 years?
I mean, look at this table. It's wild when you see it all laid out. In just 3 generations, they went from a farm to a suburb, from manual labor to a skilled office job, from eating what they grew themselves to eating processed food that came from who knows where. This isn't just one family story, it's the story of an entire country, right there in a snapshot.
When you really boil it all down, the story of the 20th century for an ordinary family was one big trade. They traded a life of intense physical hardship for a life of incredible modern convenience.
And that leaves us with one last big question. That trade-off, survival for convenience, defined their century. So as we look around today, what's our generation's great trade-off? What are we giving up, and what are we getting in return?